bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Race to Power. I'm Molly Gambhir. Let's give you a quick outline of what's in store for you tonight. Chatting app Signal is back to haunt America's Defense Secretary, whose name is once again doing the rounds for reportedly, allegedly using the app a second time to share sensitive information. What's brewing and how has Pete Hegseth reacted to the entire controversy? We get you the complete lowdown. And it is election season in Canada. Voters will be making the most of the last day of early voting before the big finale. The high-stakes poll has Canada's biggest political rivals on edge. We tell you all that you need to know. The Pentagon has slammed U.S. media reports saying that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared details of attacks on Houthi rebels in a second Signal group chat. Reports said that the chat group included his wife, brother, and personal lawyer. Citing sources familiar with the chat group, the New York Times reported that Hegseth shared detailed information about forthcoming strikes in Yemen on March 15 on the group chat. According to the New York Times report, Hegseth shared the flight schedules for the FA-18 Hornets targeting the Houthis in Yemen, especially essentially the same attack plans that he shared on a separate Signal chat the same day that mistakenly included the editor of The Atlantic. The report said that the private Signal group chat was created by Hegseth and included his wife, his brother, and about a dozen other people. As per the report, the group was named Defense Team Huddle. The report further claiming that Hegseth used his private phone rather than his government one to access the Signal chat. The Wall Street Journal has separately reported that Hegseth's wife, a former Fox News producer, has also reportedly attended sensitive meetings with foreign military counterparts. And reacting to reports, the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth blamed disgruntled former employees and the media of trying to ruin his reputation. Listen in.
See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me.
The Pentagon's chief spokesperson earlier made the same argument. In a social media post, Parnell pointed to disgruntled former employees and claimed that the reports relied only on the words of people who were fired this week and appear to have a motive to sabotage the secretary and the president's agenda. He reiterated, in fact, that there was no classified information in any Signal chat. These revelations coming as one of Hegseth's leading advisors, Dan Caldwell, was escorted from the Pentagon last week after being identified during an investigation into leaks at the Department of Defense. Two other officials, Darren Selnick and Colin Carroll, were also put on administrative leave. And with us on the broadcast this minute is Garland Nixon, political analyst and radio show host from Maryland, US. Thanks very much for being here on the broadcast. I have to begin by asking you, what do you make of what the report says and what the fallout has been? Of course, several questions being triggered, given that this is the second such controversy that is plaguing the Trump administration and Pete Hegseth specifically. What do you make of what he has said as well?
Well, I think number one, this reflects a level of unprofessionalism with Pete Hegseth, which shouldn't be surprising because, quite frankly, if you look at his background, I don't think he has the background. I don't think he has the competence to handle the position at the level that he's required to handle. So I just don't think he's prepared for this position, and this reflects that. Now, that being said, I think certainly there are entities out there that are out to get him or maybe try to take this information to hurt him. However, he should be knowledgeable of that, and he should know that he doesn't use Signal or WhatsApp, some of these highly compromised applications to do this. So yes, there's a legitimate argument that there's people that are out to get him. However, when you accept a position like that, you have to understand that there will always be people out there out to get you. So that's not an excuse for this. I think it just demonstrates a level of incompetence and unpreparedness for a position of the magnitude that he holds.
Right, and the Wall Street Journal separately reporting that Pete Hegseth's wife, a former Fox News producer, allegedly also attended meetings that were held with foreign military commanders. What do you make of that?
Again, he can do that when he works for Fox News. He shouldn't do that when he's in a government position, but he has held lower positions in the government, lower positions in the military where they weren't as strategically important. And of course, as I said, he wouldn't have as many people out there trying to intercept the information that he has. So I just think Pete Hegseth doesn't understand the level of power that he has and represents and how many people will be out there to compromise the information that he's sharing. And quite frankly, I never felt that Pete Hegseth demonstrated a level of competence needed for a position of this magnitude. And certainly, while I have significant disagreements with the foreign policy of my own government, the reality is if you're holding a position of this level, you have to be prepared for it. We're seeing that Pete Hegseth is not prepared for this position and probably should be replaced in my opinion.
All right, and before we let you go, given how the response has come about from Pete Hegseth, the kind of defense that has been put forth, what do you think needs to happen from here onwards? Also, given that this has, in a way, raised similar questions all over again, and in a way, the tarnishing of the trust and confidence.
Well, a couple of things. I think the important thing to understand is that these are two things apparently that seem to happen on the same day or right around the same time, which probably means that that this is an app that Pete Hegseth has been using for a while. It probably means that whoever has intercepted this information will continue to leak more and more information. It probably has a lot of information out there. So there needs to be a reckoning inside the Trump administration where they review everything that that he has shared, and they take action to try to address the compromised information that he's put out. Number one, but number two, I think at this point it's going to be hard to keep Hegseth unless Trump just digs his heels in and says he's my guy and I'm not going to let him go. I wouldn't think that would be a wise move.
All right, Garland Nixon, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you.
All right, from that, we are switching focus to how China has issued a sharp warning to countries negotiating trade deals with the United States, stating that it will take firm countermeasures against any agreements made at Beijing's expense. The Commerce Ministry, in fact, declared, and I'm quoting here, appeasement will not bring peace and compromise will not be respected, quote unquote. The statement came as several US allies, including South Korea, Japan, India, pursue bilateral deals to avoid heavy American tariffs. Beijing accused these moves of being driven by temporary selfish interests and warned that such strategies would ultimately fail and harm all parties involved. And in another move, China has sent back second Boeing 737 MAX jet across the Pacific to the United States. The jet has moved back to Boeing's Seattle production hub. And this follows another Boeing aircraft making an unexpected return to the US on Sunday. Boeing, already under pressure from previous setbacks and fierce competition, now finding itself caught in the crossfire of a global economic standoff. And while China pulls back, other countries are inching forward. Malaysia Airlines, parent company, is talking to Boeing about taking jets China no longer wants and hopes to get planes sooner. This comes amid one of the most aggressive tariff confrontations in modern trade history. The US has imposed up to 245% tariffs on a wide range of Chinese goods compared to a 10% blanket rate for other countries. In response, Beijing slapped 125% tariffs on US imports. While President Trump claims China has reached out for dialogue, Beijing has not confirmed any talks and continues to condemn what it calls US unilateralism and protectionism. And with tensions escalating between the world's two largest economies, other countries are quickly recalibrating their trade positions. South Korea is entering high-level trade discussions with Washington this week, hoping to shield major exporters like Samsung and Hyundai from potential levies. Japan's Prime Minister, for that matter, praised recent US-Japan talks as a model for the world, while US Vice President J.D. Vance is on an India visit to push forward a possible trade deal. Beijing, however, is making it clear it will not tolerate being sidelined and will respond to any perceived threat to its economic interests. Canada's high-stakes election campaign heading into its final week now, and today will be the last day of advance polling. A record number of Canadians have already cast their mandate in advance polls that started on the 18th of April. All the candidates are making that final campaign push before the vote on April 28. The Conservative leader will be campaigning in Greater Toronto after his weekend campaign in British Columbia. The Liberal leader, Mark Carney, will start the final week of the campaign from Prince Edward Island. And moving closer to the polling date, candidates are running the last mile of their campaign. Let's just take a closer look at who is leading the race according to the polls. The polls showing Trudeau's successor is leading Liberal Party to a fourth consecutive election victory. Mark Carney has put Liberals in front, with the polls showing 43.3% Canadians going their way. And next up is Conservative candidate Pierre Poilievre, who was eyeing an election landslide early this year, has been trailing in the polls. He's almost 5% behind his Liberal rival Mark Carney. And third is New Democrat Party candidate Jagmeet Singh, who has 8.2% Canadians backing him. Carney called for snap elections after taking over from Justin Trudeau in March. The elections are taking place amid heightened tensions with the US. Dynamics of a long-standing Canada-US friendship have changed after Trump took office in Washington. US President Trump's tariff offensive and plans of making Canada the 51st state of the US being the central issues in the Canadian election. In both the English and French language debate, prime ministerial candidates tried to corner each other on one question: how to counter Trump's Canada policy. Poilievre wants to square off Trump with a domestic policy change, while Carney wants to go head-to-head with the US president on tariffs. Another tug-of-war taking place regarding Justin Trudeau. Poilievre keeps pushing Carney under the shadow of Trudeau, while the Liberal leader keeps distancing himself from his predecessor and roles he played during his administration. Australia's federal election process gets underway tomorrow as it begins the process of early voting. Millions are set to cast their ballot in the run-up to the May 3 election. The Australian Electoral Commission, in fact, is preparing for what it describes as the country's largest peacetime logistical event. More than 18 million Australians are registered to vote, 60 million ballot papers being printed. Early voting will start on the 22nd of April and will run until the 2nd of May. At hundreds of polling places across the country. And the AEC expects that around a third of registered voters will opt for early voting this year. One prediction is that the number could be as high as 50%. The political landscape is heating up as the Prime Minister and other leaders make last-minute pitches to the voters. Australia's centre-left Labour government has maintained its lead in the opinion polls 2 weeks ahead of the national election. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has extended his margin as the country's preferred leader. As per a news poll survey in Australia, there is a slight increase in the Labour's primary vote to 34%, its highest mark in a year, while the coalition stands at 35%. On a two-party preferred basis, Labour held its lead over the Liberal National Coalition, 52% to 48%. And this has raised concerns of a hung parliament, given support for the Greens and the independents. Approval ratings for both Albanese and the opposition leader have dipped. Albanese remains the preferred prime minister with 52% support as compared to Dutton's 36%. While Dutton is favoured on issues like defence and the economy, Albanese is seen as better equipped to tackle the electorate's primary concern, which is the cost of living, along with housing and health. And the stage is set for a highly anticipated election season that kicks off on Tuesday itself. The death of Pope Francis signals a centuries-old ritual that involves sacred oaths by the cardinals to elect a successor. The election of a new pontiff is shrouded in mystery. The process cannot begin until at least 15 days after the death of a pope and must start within 20 days. During the 9 days of official mourning, the College of Cardinals who elect a pope gather in Rome, and once the process starts, these cardinals cannot have contact with the outside world.
The death of a pope initiates a centuries-old ritual to elect a new pontiff. It begins with 9 days of funeral rites, during which the pope is buried. Cardinals are coming to Rome from around the world to participate in that funeral mass, as are heads of state. Then the conclave procedures begin. There are a few days of closed meetings. These are when the cardinals get together and meet in secret. They discuss the problems of the church. They're receiving reports from all the different Vatican offices of what the financial situation is, what the problems are facing the church around the world, and what are the qualities of a pontiff that are needed to bring the church forward. At a certain point, they stop those meetings and the conclave begins.
To be elected, a candidate must receive a 2/3 majority. After each vote, the ballots are burned. Black smoke emerges from the chapel chimney if no pope has been chosen, and white smoke billows out if a new pope has been elected. Let's now take a look at the probables to become the next pope. Cardinal John Mark, a theological thinker and reform-minded bishop of Marseille, aligned with Francis on immigration and interfaith relations. Cardinal Peter Erdo, a legal scholar with conservative roots but a pragmatic streak, fluent in multiple languages and a veteran of Vatican politics. Cardinal Mario Grech, Synod of Bishops leader, a modern reformer respected for his attempts to bring the church into the 21st century. Cardinal Juan Jose Omella, compassionate and socially conscious, deeply pastoral, but also part of Francis's inner circle. Cardinal Pietro Parolin, Vatican Secretary of State and seasoned diplomat. He may appeal to cardinals seeking a steady hand and institutional continuity. Whoever emerges will inherit a church at a crossroads, grappling with modernity, past scandals, and the global challenges Francis worked to confront. Whether they pursue reform, restoration, or quiet diplomacy, the next pope will shape Catholicism's future for decades to come. And tensions are escalating in the Democratic Republic of Congo after the country's ruling government has suspended the political party of the former president Joseph Kabila. Authorities saying Kabila's party, the People's Party for Reconstruction and Democracy, is now banned from operating across the country. The Interior Ministry claims Kabila is backing M23 rebels, a group that has waged a war in mineral-rich eastern DRC and has effective control over the regional capital of Goma. The president has even accused Kabila of preparing an insurrection against his government. Kabila ruled for 18 years before stepping down in 2019. He was living in exile in South Africa since 2023. But he remains head of the PPRD. Tshisekedi government accuses him of activism that threatens national stability, and unconfirmed reports say Kabila may have returned to Congo through Goma, a city now under M23 control. Kabila's party calls the suspension illegal and politically motivated. It argues that the government is trying to distract from its own failure to contain the crisis in the east. The Justice Ministry has vowed to take legal action against Kabila, and this political storm comes as conflict in eastern DR Congo continues to intensify, raising fears of wider instability in the region. North-South language wars in India are in focus again. A long simmering anger against non-Kannadigas burst out into ugly road rage crime in Bengaluru on Friday. A wing commander of the Defence Research and Development Organisation, Aditya Bose, claims he was physically assaulted while his wife, squadron leader Madhumita, faced verbal abuse. Bose even posted pictures and video from the incident on his Instagram page.
So my wife Madhumita was driving me at around morning 6:30 to drop me to the bus stop. And near Gopalan Grand Mall, just near C.V. Raman Nagar, suddenly from the right one bike comes and stops in front of our car. So I'll share the dashcam video also, and it will be available in CCTV. He comes in front of our car, parks his bike, and thereafter, wearing a helmet, keys in his hand, comes in front of our car and starts saying, "You DRDO people," and something in Kannada. So my wife was driving, so he saw that and came towards my side and then started arguing, and suddenly, all of a sudden, he punched me with his key. I didn't realize what had happened. I tried to open the door and come outside. I threw him away, and thereafter, just to exit from the area, I rushed to the bike, took the bike and threw it away on the side, and was coming back to the car just to sit and exit the area, and suddenly he came with something and started hitting me again.
The Indian Air Force officer hits out on the issue of non-acceptance of outsiders that has led to physical abuse even of armed forces personnel. The Karnataka language debate is a multifaceted issue involving identity, cultural preservation, migration, and politics at its core. It revolves around the status of Kannada in the face of increasing migration from other parts of India, especially the Hindi-speaking north, and the growing presence of Hindi and English in urban Karnataka, particularly Bengaluru. Increased migration into Bengaluru from the northern states has changed the city's demographics. Kannadigas fear that jobs, culture, language are under threat. Some migrants report discrimination or difficulties integrating due to language barriers. There's been a spurt in recent years in activism by groups like the Karnataka Rakshana Vedike. Kannadigas, especially activists and cultural groups, feel that Kannada is being sidelined. Concerns are heightened in Bengaluru, where migrants often do not learn or use Kannada. Easter celebrations in Georgia were marked with political expression and protests as many attending church service called for the ruling party to restart Georgia's European Union accession process and also conduct fresh and fair elections. Take a look at this report. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. Thanks very much for watching.
Catch me at Token Money Magnet, only on WION.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at wion.com.
Imagine a world where owning your dream asset is just a click away, where wealth is no longer exclusive to the few. Tokenization, the game changer transforming assets into digital opportunities. A revolutionary technology opening doors to a new era of investment. Don't miss Token Money Magnet, a bold initiative by Kalp Foundation. Only on WION World is One.